me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
Oh, you know we need them. Yeah, we need those strategies, don't we? Those strategies for living. So, are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
I think I'm ready.
You think you're ready?
I think so.
You're free to be that way.
Absolutely.
Hey,
as
folks.
far as I know.
Yeah. Folks, welcome. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillian. She is psychotherapist, licensed professional counselor, Lauren McMillian. And, you know, there's a lot of buzz and talk right now about freedom.
Sure.
Because we're about to celebrate a big milestone. You know, America's 250th birthday.
Right.
That is no small feat, you know, for a self-governing people to have started 1776 and 2026 still going strong. And, you know, some people would say, well,
strong.
But then other people would say, yeah. So here's the deal.
It's about perspective.
It is
right?
about perspective. And that kind of leads into what I think we can explore today, which is the freedom formula.
Well, what is freedom?
Yeah, what's
is true freedom?
What is true freedom? And, you know, we're not the truth of the matter is, you know, we're not free to do just anything. There are laws, right?
Well,
and
we're free to do the things as long as we understand there are consequences to the choices that we make.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about today is the freedom formula as responsibility plus capacity plus honesty.
All right.
And the freedom formula is really all three of those. I think our founding fathers completely understood this in terms of the checks and balances they set up for the United States of America. Yeah. And we would do well to remember the freedom formula today. So we're going to talk about it here on Strategies. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of those Muffies, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. What is the freedom formula? That's today here on Strategies for Living.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem drab. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren McMillian, David McMillian. We're like a lot of folks. We're celebrating freedom today. We're right at America's 250th birthday. What a celebration it is. It's a time to really focus on, we're the land of the free, also the home of the brave.
That's right.
Now, let's talk about that. Let's pull that apart for a second. The land of the free and the home of the brave. It takes somebody brave to be responsible, to really be honest with themselves and even about their own capacity. So the freedom formula that we're going to talk about today is responsibility plus capacity plus honesty. And I think this is something that we all need to consider. This is something that we have to learn, I think, over time. You know, you and I were visiting with a young man earlier this week who is, is experiencing, I can do anything, anytime to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
as is developmentally appropriate.
As developmentally,
years, right?
15, 16-year-old. I mean, okay, yeah. However, in fact, we were talking about the correlation
between responsibility being hooked to freedom.
Right. Yeah. And so, I pointed out to him, well, your next door neighbor may want to come over and harm you, right? There are laws on the books that prevent, as much as your next door neighbor might really want to come do harm to you, it's against the law. And so as long as the next door neighbor is being responsible,
right?
And we all know that there are times that people are irresponsible, are dishonest, and they don't, they get their freedom then taken away from them.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought the honesty part into there because
the freedom formula is all three.
Right.
It is, and we'll talk about each one. Responsibility plus capacity plus honesty. Yeah. And it's important that one goes with the other.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So responsibility, it's often been said that, what true discipline is being able to understand that freedom and responsibility are completely correlated together.
Right.
Right.
As one increases, the other must as well.
Absolutely. Right? But what is truly responsibility? I look at the word.
Yeah.
Responsibility, the ability to respond. I would say it's truly owning your situation. Now, sometimes this is hard.
Right. Well, and it's not blaming yourself or anybody else. It is, like you said, the ability to respond, which places no blame.
All right. So now you're making a point here, Lauren. It's not blaming other people or yourself.
Because I think we tend to veer towards that blaming self when we think of responsibility.
If I blame myself, how does that block my ability to clearly be responsible?
When we blame ourselves, we often get trapped in judgment and shame.
Blame is a trap, and that's the trap, right? Yeah.
Anytime that you find yourself in judgment, that's going to be the fastest way to stop any progress.
Right.
Period.
Right.
All right. And so blaming self is a form of judgment.
Yeah. And this is going to be controversial, what I'm about to say, but I think guilt is like that too. It can get in the way also. And I know people are screaming at the radio right now, well, there are plenty of guilty people in my life. Well, okay. And sometimes we include ourselves. I'm guilty. Okay. Oh, that may be.
But what is that doing for the issue at hand?
Right.
If the guilt is helping you to move forward into responsibility,
then perhaps it's healthy guilt.
Then perhaps it can be helpful.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I think we do a pretty unbalanced job with the guilt scenario.
More often than not, guilt
it quickly turns into shame.
Yeah, guilt shuts us down.
Yeah.
And there's way more unhealthy guilt and shame then there truly is what I would determine as healthy guilt. Healthy guilt to me is the ability to do what we're talking about, is take responsibility, acknowledge, be honest with myself and acknowledge I've hurt someone or I've hurt this situation, and I need to take full responsibility for that. We see this
in the sense that I have the ability to respond differently.
Right.
Yeah.
We see this a lot in working with couples, right? Mm-hmm. So in any couples therapist is going to hear a lot. Well, you're not going to believe what she did. You're not going to believe what he did.
Yeah.
All right.
It becomes.
So, yeah, we can fall into that trap. We do. But more often than not, it's the old saying, I can move from relationship to relationship and tell myself, well, damn, I'm unlucky. I keep picking the wrong people.
Whoa.
And we forget to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what is the common denominator between all of these relationships that haven't gone so well? And when I'm looking to the mirror and being honest with myself, I say, oh, it's me.
Yeah, and you're touching on another important part of responsibility, which is that it's about taking, not giving away your power.
Yeah.
Right? Because what you're suggesting is in playing the blame game and not taking responsibility, we're actually giving away our own power to change the situation.
Right. And blame and guilt can do both of those things. They can shut us down to the point that we give away our freedom. Mm-hmm. And we don't mean to, but it's important for us to be aware that blame can be a trap. Guilt can be a trap.
Yep.
There, as we've said, there's such thing as healthy guilt, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the vast majority of the guilt that we're all going to be aware of in our lives and in the lives of people that we love really falls into the category of unhealthy guilt.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree. Yeah, for sure.
And so, again, just to be aware of that, we can, do our work, do our own work, and stay away. Learn, for me, what is shame, unhealthy guilt? What does that look like? I mean, since you mentioned shame, shame is never, absolutely never healthy. Never, can't be.
Right.
Because shame says, I am something wrong. Mm-hmm. Guilt, on the other hand, sometimes may, as you've said, lead to, the ability to look at myself and make corrective.
A reconciliation of whatever form that may need to take.
But more often than not, the guilt that we see in our world just shuts us off and shuts us down.
Right.
And
I think part of that piece of responsibility is being able to make the discernment of, there are things that we cannot change.
Yeah.
But we do have the ability to respond.
Right.
And so what that means is just like Viktor Frankl speaks about all the time.
Oh, man,
right?
yeah.
It's the idea that we really can't change the situation or what happens to us, but we can change the way we respond to the situation.
Here's a guy who has everything taken away from him. And in fact, and I'm talking about Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
And if you want to know more about this, read the excellent Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning. Mm-hmm. He wrote it when he was a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp. And every day he got into a line where some people were sent to work and other people were sent to the gas chamber. That was it.
Right.
But he contends that even then he was free because he was free in his mind. Mm-hmm. And he was free enough to write Man's Search for Meaning. Now, he had the one possession that Viktor Frankl had was an overcoat. Mm-hmm. And so he had to write this manuscript on scraps of paper, toilet paper, whatever he could get. And he had to hide it in the lining of his overcoat,
Right.
And thankfully, nobody ever found it. If they had, he'd have probably been sent, to the gas chamber.
Right.
But he wasn't, thankfully. And after, the victory, the Nazi defeat, Viktor Frankl went on to
the
write
whole,
Man's Search for Meaning.
The whole process from beginning it to end is just the epitome of the idea that we're not what happened to us, but we can choose what we become because of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
We always, as long as we understand the power that we have mentally, our mind, then that goes a long, long way. We've got to understand that these go together. So responsibility, capacity, and honesty. So we've been talking about guilt. That's really what guilt is. It's responsibility without capacity. Without understanding or misthinking, I don't have the capacity to respond here.
Right.
I need something stronger, something bigger, something better. I need a rescuer, and that's a trap.
That's a big trap.
That's a huge trap. We're talking about the freedom formula today. Responsibility, capacity, honesty. Got some things to say about capacity when we come back. Stay with us.
Facing the same old problems day to day makes you wanna holler, get away. Looking for the road that'll get me there. Looking for hope and peace to spare. Looking for strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living Radio. Hey, don't forget that, listening here and there, especially if you're in your car listening to the radio, the program on the radio, you might say, gee, I wish I could hear the whole thing, or I wish I could, take notes, but I'm driving. Well, we've got a solution.
We do. We are on podcast, on platforms everywhere. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you can tune in, search Strategies for Living, and we are there in hundreds of episodes.
Absolutely. And we would really appreciate if you are a podcast listener, if you like to do the podcast thing, we would really appreciate you going wherever you get your podcast and subscribing to Strategies for Living.
And if possible, leave a review.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a fun thing. I mean, we have listeners in Saigon. We have listeners in Australia.
Yeah.
We have listeners in the United Kingdom. It blows me away, since we've started the podcast thing.
Yeah.
How many?
We've gone international.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so we're talking the freedom formula today. Responsibility plus capacity plus honesty. Because obviously this is a time that we're talking a lot about freedom. But what truly is the freedom formula? Okay, so Lauren, if I say to you, I'm not going to feel free until an NBA team offers me a massive contract to be a center forward for one of their teams.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You got a lot of work ahead of you, bud.
Well, I would say no, I really don't, because I've got to understand that there are limits to freedom. And if I define my freedom as I have to be center forward for an NBA team, I have to look at several things. And it's really about capacity. Mm-hmm. I'm 69 years old. I'm 5'8".
Yep.
I'm working on this, but I have too much weight on me. Mm-hmm. But the big thing is 5'8", 69 years old. I don't have the capacity. I have to be honest with myself. That's going to be what we talk about next. But I don't have, and this is an example of how all three of these go together.
Right.
Maybe if I had started practicing hoops back when I was, in grade school or something and gotten good at it, maybe I could have gotten on the high school team. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe.
Well, it's possible for sure.
Possible.
If you really enjoyed it and if it was something you were passionate about, I don't believe that there are limits there.
No, but at 5'8", you've got to be realistic. David, you don't have the capacity to go on into Division I college ball, which opens the door for the pros, right? And so you have to understand. Yeah,
I could argue that one too. I mean, I just don't think there's a.
Yeah, I think you're a little biased.
Maybe,
but yeah. So what is capacity? Capacity is having the energy, the skill, and the resources. Okay?
And support.
But sure. Yeah, but I would put support in the category of resources.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And, again, in my silly example of, I don't have the skill. I certainly don't have the skill. I could. You're arguing, well, you could develop the skill, but I'm 69 years old. I don't have the energy to do what is necessary, and I don't have the resources. What is Shaq? Shaq is a giant.
Tall.
Tall. I don't know exactly, but LeBron. How tall is LeBron? When you put Shaq against LeBron, Shaq makes LeBron look small, and they're both massive men, right?
Yeah.
But they have the resources. They have the resources, and at some point in time, both of those gentlemen, Shaquille O'Neal and LeBron James, at some point in time, probably very early in their lives, they started to develop the skills. And they trained, and they trained. And they're, LeBron's still going. He's going to go for another year. So, capacity is having the energy, the skill, and the resource to act on what you choose. You get to choose.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I get to choose that, hey, I really want to be on an NBA team. But I would hope that you would love me enough to tell me, and maybe other people would love me enough to tell me, David, no, not going to happen. Not going to take place. Doesn't matter how much you practice, You can practice 24/7 shooting hoops. Not going to happen because I don't have the capacity.
Well, and for all practical purposes, for more of the things that we're going to be facing in our daily lives, right? What I hear you saying is capacity isn't about willpower.
No.
But in practical terms, it can be, and it is about your nervous system health.
Yeah.
Your ability to respond resiliently to anything that comes your way, right?
Sure.
The rest.
Back to my illustration with LeBron and Shaquille, right? Part of the training that they had to go through was to develop their nervous system, their neuroactivity, and their nervous systems to the point that they have the skill they develop the skill to go out and play at a level that would probably kill me to try to play at that level. Now, forget the height for a second. Forget the height and the age. I probably would last truly about 30 seconds. Maybe a minute, but then I would run out of gas. I would run out of speed. So I get to choose, but hopefully, I also choose with honesty, Lauren, because capacity without honesty is misdirected power. That's what it is. If I'm not honest with me, and I don't want to get political or anything like that.
So if you're saying if I have the time, the energy, and the resources to enact something, but I'm not honest with myself,
right.
about then you are completely misdirecting the power that you have.
And you and I don't do a lot of politics in this program, and we're not going to start today. However, I've got to touch on this. A lot of what's happening in the world is about misdirected power.
Yes, for sure.
It's there's capacity.
Yes,
a state or a country may have the capacity, but they're not being honest with and in how they look at themselves. And so, there's still power there, but it's misdirected power. And as much as we want peace in the world and even peace in our own country, part of the pathway to get there is exactly what we're talking about right now. For instance, we're pretty divided right now. We're pretty divided.
Seems that way.
Yeah, it does. It seems, and we're hopeful. I know you're very hopeful that part of what we're going through is a readjustment process or correction process, and I hope so too. But we have to be honest. Republicans have to be honest about Democrats. Democrats have to be honest about Republicans.
Well, humans have to be honest about humans.
And
we have to be honest with ourselves about what humanity is and where we want to go as a people.
Right, and you have a right to think about this different from the way I think about this.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so when I acknowledge that you think about something different from the way that I think about it, but instead of engaging you in conversation, I belittle you.
Right.
I label you. I blame you. I do all the things that
really
will
free,
shut the formula. Well, yeah. So that's why these three go together. Right. That's why and responsibility and capacity and honesty go together.
You're touching on something there too, though, because I think honesty is not just about seeing things the way that they are, right? So it's not making things any worse or any better than it is.
A lot of what people call honesty today is what they perceive, their opinion and their perception.
Yeah.
And every human being has a perception and the right to have that perception.
Sure.
And now, again, part of the acknowledgement is, hey, you have that right. Let's talk about it, because capacity without honesty is misdirected power. And the honesty that I need to bring myself to is, one of them anyway, is that other people have that right to think the way they think. Viktor Frankl, back as a prisoner in the concentration camp, had the right, and his captors could not take away from him his right to think, one day I'm going to get out of here and be free.
Right.
And so I'm going to write this book. I got this book I want to write. I'm going to do that. And I have to hide it, but I'm going to do it, by damn it.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's again, you can
and
go get a copy of it today.
To include those, he had the ability to respond. He had the capacity, right? And he was honest within the circumstance that he was.
That he was in. Yeah. He knew that if he didn't hide the the manuscript in his overcoat, well, he might be told to turn left instead of turning right to go work in the in the mines or wherever they did. We're talking about the freedom formula today, and it's an important conversation. It's responsibility, capacity, and honesty. All three make up the freedom formula. We're talking about it today on Strategies for Living. Guess what's coming up? Honesty. Lots to talk about honesty. We'll be back here on Strategies.
We all have problems every day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies Strategies for living radio.
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian, talking today about, freedom. The freedom formula, which is responsibility, capacity, and honesty. And during the break, Lauren, you said, I said right before the break, okay, we're going to come back and talk about honesty. And you said?
Well, honestly, I thought we were talking about it already.
Yeah. And okay, it's excellent. It makes the point that we were making earlier, that you have and I said to you, no, we were still talking about capacity. You thought we were talking about honesty. That's a beautiful illustration of what we were talking about at the end of last segment.
Yeah.
You and I experienced the exact same thing, and yet we perceived it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you weren't wrong, and I wasn't wrong. And the reason for that is if you really look at this, these three go together.
Yeah.
And if you talk about one, you really are. If you talk about responsibility, you really are talking about capacity and honesty too. If you talk about capacity, you're really also talking about responsibility and honesty. If you're talking about honesty, you really are talking about capacity and responsibility.
Sure.
So, it really is all of the above. And so many times we don't acknowledge that. We don't, and we think, well, yeah, heck yeah, I'm free. And yet,
Well, and
we're not.
Right. Well, and it comes down to the idea, again, what you were just talking about. What is your definition? What is your perspective of what it means to be free?
Yeah. So since we're zeroing in on honesty now, we said responsibility was owning your situation. Capacity was having the energy, the skill, and the resources to act on what you choose. So honesty is seeing things as they are. Now,
which is difficult when we see things as we are.
Exactly. Exactly. This is such a challenge. And you said last segment, you brought up perception. You brought up the idea of we all have perception. And then we brought up the blame game that we so easily get into, no matter what. We were kind of touching on it with politics, but we get into it in families.
Sure.
We get into it in cities.
We get into it with ourselves.
We get into it within the self. Yes. Yeah. And, oftentimes people might think when they hear us say, you want freedom in the world, work on you. Mm-hmm. People might think, oh, well, they're just being totally woo-woo again. Look at them go. No. The fact of the matter is, again, back to this freedom formula, responsibility, capacity, and honesty. If I'm honest with myself, I don't have the ability to change everything in the world.
Right.
But I have the responsibility, the capacity, and the level of honesty to change what I need to change within myself.
Yeah.
And if I can somehow, some way achieve peace in my world, then peace is in my world. I experience peace.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, it goes back to the idea of we don't experience life as it is, but rather life as we are.
Right.
As long as we are in this form, with a physical form and a mind with which to experience the world, then that will be the way that we experience the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So honesty is seeing things as they are, not as you wish they were.
Right.
And so honesty...
It's what we talk about all the time, right? That we can't heal anything or change anything that we're unwilling to look at.
Yeah. And it may take a lot of effort even once we look at it, but you're not going to get any place until you acknowledge.
Right.
Back to We were talking about, we see this in couples therapy a lot, the blame game and stuff. Until I acknowledge my part in the relationship, and I did family therapy, marriage therapy for 30 years, and I absolutely never can I recall any couple that I ever worked with where it was all one and none of the other.
Right.
Now, to be fair, I did work with some cases through the years
where it was a little unbalanced.
Where it was unbalanced. It was totally unbalanced. I mean, I had to say to the guy, hey, fella, look at this. Or I had to say to the lady, hey, ma'am, be willing to look at this. Sometimes there was an imbalance, but always,
it takes two.
It was two sides to create this and maintain it. And so once we understand that, that's the beginning of healing, true healing.
Well, and I think it's important that we touch on the idea that honesty doesn't mean harsh, right?
No.
But it does mean clear.
Yes.
Clear is kind.
You can be clear without being harsh.
Right.
Totally. So honesty without responsibility is helpless awareness. Think about that.
Okay.
Honesty without responsibility. So again, the freedom formula is all three of these: responsibility plus capacity plus honesty. So honesty without responsibility. I can be honest and,
and I can see that this is not a good situation for us to be in.
Right. Back to the
but I'm
couple.
But it's not me.
Yeah,
I can't do anything about it.
Back to the couple example.
Yep.
Okay, I can be real honest. You're acting like a bitch. Well, that may be really honest, and you might say, well, yeah, I am, so we can both acknowledge that. But without us both acknowledging, then we're aware, there's helpless awareness going on.
Well, if we're able,
and we're lost.
If we're being honest, but neither one of us is willing to respond to the situation,
right?
That's where it becomes helplessness.
So all three of these together, responsibility plus capacity plus honesty, all three together represents freedom to create, to totally create your life. Now look at the word create. It begins with a C, right? Most people, and we are, as children of God, God was his total creator. We're made in God's image and likeness. So we're creators. That it just follows. But most of us don't act that way.
No.
Most of us, if you take the C and you move it a couple of letters, then create becomes react, or creative becomes reactive. And that's what most of us live our lives as, reactive individuals. The challenge for all of us is to really do this freedom formula, be totally responsible, take capacity into account, and be as honest as we can. If we do all three, of these,
become a robot.
I
don't know if I want to do all three. If I'm becoming a robot.
I have the freedom to punch the buttons right.
Do.
It's just,
are you responsible?
I don't have that capacity, obviously, today. That's the honest truth. Back with strategies in just a moment. Yes, back to strategies for living. Lauren McMillian, David McMillian over here trying to run things. Hands of a surgeon.
Yeah.
Hands of a surgeon.
That's the most honest thing I've ever heard.
Hands of a surgeon, mind of a bumblebee, but the hands of a surgeon. Maybe one day I'll learn.
You got that backwards.
Yeah, well, whatever. Welcome back to Strategies, talking today about the freedom formula, responsibility, capacity, and honesty. What is your honest takeaway from today, Lauren?
I think this is an elegant little formula. It makes sense, and it really is elegant, right? It's the idea that...
I like that word, elegant.
It is. Yeah. I mean, because responsibility gives us the ownership. Honesty can give us that clarity.
Yep.
And the capacity gives us the ability. And And just like the formula says, if you remove any one of them, freedom becomes difficult, right?
If not impossible.
And together, they create genuine empowerment
Right.
in our lives.
And so we would do well to understand both individually and collectively, because that's the deal. You know, we want freedom for ourselves and we want to maintain freedom for ourselves, but we also want freedom for everybody else. We want freedom for everybody else in the world. We have to be willing to live this formula.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to be responsible, take capacity, and be honest, totally honest, not just what we perceive to be, but totally what is. Something to think about as we celebrate this 250 years of freedom.
Absolutely.
Lauren, thank you. Folks, thank you. We appreciate you being a part of Strategies for Living, and we appreciate our sponsors, the Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Pintail Roofing, and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. Wait a minute. Now it's called
Restore Healing.
Restore Healing. Yeah, there you go. Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of the Muffy, SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira, Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillian, I'm David McMillian. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.